It was another long night on the road, hauling equipment from one catering event to another. By the time I got off work, it was well past 2 a.m. Too wired from caffeine to sleep and starving from a long shift, I decided to grab a bite from the McDonald's off the highway. The drive-thru was busier than expected, which only added to my impatience. As I waited in line, my eyes drifted to an old beat-up Volkswagen with tinted windows parked in the corner of the lot. Something about it unsettled me. After getting my food, I didn't want to head straight home. Instead, I decided to visit a scenic lookout at the nearby nature preserve, a spot I hadn't been to in years. The place was deserted, which was no surprise given the late hour. Just as I pulled into the gravel parking area, headlights appeared behind me. It was the same Volkswagen. My stomach twisted. Was I being followed? I parked and killed the engine, my hands tightening around the wheel. The car just sat there, no movement, no sound. After a few tense minutes, I FaceTimed my friend Sebastian, hoping for a distraction. He agreed to swing by and join me. When he arrived, we headed up the path to the lookout, leaving the eerie Volkswagen behind. Just before the parking lot disappeared from view, I glanced back and watched as all 4 doors of the Volkswagen opened at once. 4 men stepped out, standing motionless in the darkness. Sebastian and I reached the top of the lookout, trying to shake off the unease. A few minutes later, 3 men approached us, laughing and sharing a blunt. They acted friendly at first, but when I casually asked about McDonald's, their expressions darkened. I suddenly realized that there had been 4 men in the Volkswagen. So, where was the 4th? A chill ran down my spine. Sebastian nudged me and pointed towards the tree line. There, half hidden in the shadows, was the missing man. He was holding something. The moment he noticed us watching, he moved. We ran. Racing down the path, we could hear their footsteps pounding behind us. My heart threatened to explode from the adrenaline. We reached our cars, slammed the doors shut, and tore out of there. In my rearview mirror, I saw them scrambling back to their car, but we had too much of a head start. I didn't drive home, not wanting to risk leading them there. Instead, I met up with Sebastian in a safer place, still shaken by what had just happened. The next day, we returned to McDonald's and showed the night shift employee a photo Sebastian had secretly taken of the group. His face paled. He told us the tattooed guy had worked there before getting fired for stalking his ex, another employee. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the restaurant because of a restraining order. I don't know what those guys wanted that night, but I haven't gone back to that McDonald's or the lookout since. Story 2. Growing up in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, there wasn't much to do, so my friends and I found our own ways to entertain ourselves. One of our favorite pastimes was sneaking into abandoned buildings, and our usual haunt was an old church in Narberth at 198 Elmwood Avenue. One chilly autumn night, 6 of us, Luna, Gina, Johnny, Max, Allie, and I, decided to go there for a few drinks. We climbed the 8-foot chain-link fence, slipping in through a broken side window like we always did. The church's main floor had been ripped out long ago, leaving only a gaping hole and a set of concrete stairs leading into the basement. That's where we always ended up. The basement had 3 rooms. 2 were open doorways, but 1 had an actual door. We gathered in the largest room, drinking and laughing until a sudden deafening slam cut through the air. We froze. Johnny, already tipsy, bolted up the stairs, dragging Luna and Gina with him. That left me, Max, and Allie. We exchanged nervous glances but decided to investigate. We pushed open the slammed door and found a small, nearly empty room. Against the far wall was a cracked mirror, smeared with something dark red. The stains looked fresh. My stomach churned. Then, on the dresser beneath the mirror, I saw it. A black and white photo of a woman in a wedding dress. Her smile was wrong, stretched in an unsettling way. The whole room gave me a horrible feeling. That's when we heard it. A sound came from the other room, the one we had just been in. Max and Allie both whispered, "We need to go." We grabbed our stuff and sprinted up the stairs. As we scrambled over the fence, I looked back and saw a shadow in the open window. My breath caught in my throat. Was it my imagination, or was someone standing there watching us leave? We never went back. Years later, when I revisited the location, the church was gone, demolished without a trace. To this day, I have no idea what we encountered that night, and honestly, I don't want to know. Story 2. Room 206. I was never superstitious. I never believed in ghosts, haunted houses, or any of those stories people tell to scare each other. But what happened to me last summer changed everything. It was a work trip I didn't want to take, but I had no choice. A small town in the middle of nowhere, a rundown hotel, and room 206, the place I will remember for the rest of my life. From the moment I stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was thick and heavy, as if the room itself didn't want me there. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing dark stains underneath, and the furniture looked like it hadn't been touched in years. The bed, despite the sweltering summer heat outside, was ice cold. I told myself I was just imagining things, but deep down, a feeling of unease was creeping into my bones. The first sign that something was truly wrong came around midnight. I was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep when I heard it. A soft, scratching sound. At first, I thought it was just a rat or some kind of small animal. But then the noise changed. It grew deeper, more deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. The sound was coming from the closet. I stared at the closed door, my heart hammering in my chest. And then, right in front of my eyes, the door slowly creaked open. I sat up, frozen. The closet was pitch black inside. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel something watching me from the darkness. Telling myself it was just the wind, I got up and slammed the door shut. But a strange thought entered my mind. How could it be the wind if the windows were closed? I lay back down, pulling the covers over myself, trying to convince myself it was nothing. But half an hour later, something even worse happened. The mattress shifted, as if someone had just sat down behind me. Then I felt it, a cold breath against the back of my neck. I couldn't move. My body was locked in place by sheer terror. My eyes were wide open, staring at the wall, afraid to turn around. And then I heard a voice. "What are you doing in my room?" It was a whisper, hoarse and close, as if someone was speaking directly into my ear. I shot up from the bed and ran straight to the door. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the lock, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if someone, was holding it shut from the other side. Then I saw it. In the mirror across the room, there was something on the bed. A woman. She was sitting where I had been lying just seconds before. Her dress was old, tattered, and stained. Her skin was sickly pale with deep, hollow eyes, completely black. She was staring at me, smiling, and then, just as suddenly as it had started, the door flung open. I stumbled out, gasping for breath, my heart slamming against my ribs. The night receptionist looked up at me, unsurprised. He sighed and shook his head. Another one. I didn't sleep that night. At the first sign of daylight, I checked out of the hotel. But before I left, I had to ask, "What did you mean by another one?" The receptionist say they hear whispers, some see the woman, and some... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Never speak about what they experienced, but they all leave the same way, pale, shaking, asking the same question. I swallowed hard. What question? He met my eyes. "What are you doing in my room?"